Okay, so we're going to do the 132 scale Dragon P-51D Mustang. Relatively a new kit. We just have a quick run through the box. Nice set of decals, 3 options, we'll go through those later. A photo etch fret with grills, photo etch belts, a control panel which is a bit iffy, so that's quite nice there. Some springs and various other bits and pieces which we'll get to later. Your standard sort of instructions that you might expect from them that go right the way through, pretty comprehensive, and obviously their call outs for colours you'll have to convert across because it is using the Guns Sanyo range, so we go with that. Right, all still bagged as we can see. So if we just pop a few little parts out of the bag, we've just got that. We can have a quick chat about that. As we can see here, the panel line is thick. Obviously, in real life, it would be as thick as your finger. So obviously, it is a bit over the top. But we're dealing with a scale issue here, and obviously tooling and trying to get the scaling in and various bits and pieces like that. It's easier to do it like this, and then obviously we'll be doing the type of thing where your eye, we're going to be fooling the viewer's eye anyway through using washes and fading paint and bits and pieces like that. As you can see here on the fuselage side. So obviously lots of riveting. We're going to be using alclads on this and doing this a very, very shiny finish, bordering on a chrome looking type aircraft to really bring it to life. This is sort of going to be a chrome walkthrough on a big kit. So what we'll do is we're going to get some chrome on this and make it look absolutely shiny and beautiful, and then we can come back with the wash, and we'll probably just use the dark grey wash just to accentuate and bring out all those riveting details and really bring it to life. It should be a fun build. It looks like a nice kit. I haven't done it before, so it's a new one for me as well. I haven't done any of their 132 range like this because obviously you can get the B version. Obviously this is the bubble top canopy. You can get the other version now, and there is a few other decal versions of it as well. So right, we'll get started. Okay, as you can see, we've got all the parts cut out and cleaned out. Now, going through obviously the build, you're going to have to look at how you actually want it. Obviously, the way it goes, you've got the parts opened up so you can show the engine off. The other nice little touch with it is, if I just grab the parts, is that the engine cowling around the top here is actually a clear sprue. Now, it's not crystal clear, so obviously if you're going to be fitting this on, roughly it's going to go just in like that. You will be able to see the working parts, but it's not like going to be a glass looking. Personally, what I'm going to do is actually spray this. Will be sprayed the same as everything else is, but it's going to be a loose fit, and so then that way we can take the cowls off to actually show off the engine and all this nice work that we're about to do. If you're not going to do it, you could literally bolt these bits together, forget about all the little bits and pieces, so you've just got the main parts so it goes together and in, and you could probably save yourself a couple of hours detailing, painting up the engine. Personally, we are going to do it. We're going to do all the little bits. It's quite nicely detailed as it is. We're going to say we're going to keep it out of the box, but you could go around and using some lead wire, fuse wire, bits and pieces like that to add more of a more realistic finish in there. So basically, we're going to start off with the main engine parts. They're all going to basically just go together very, very straightforward, and we'll put them together with some Tamiya glue. Little tip here, what I've got is, obviously I've got other bottles of it. The thing is, when they're brand new and you've got a brush full, it tends to flood. You have loads on there. So what I tend to do is just to decant a little bit out and put it in there. So I've always got half a bottle on the go. That way, you don't have to do what I was doing. Perhaps you might have seen recently. I'm dabbing down, trying to get it out. So you've always got the right amount and just bring it in. I've bought a couple of bottles now, so that should see me for another year. So there we go. All we're going to do, get this engine block halves together. Just like so, and then just paint this on just like so. Coming apart, tricky little area, just up there, and we can do it from the inside or the outside. And what we'll do, we'll just get these engine parts all together. So we've got the main block, and then we can paint that black, dry brush it, bring it back to life, and then the other areas that are silver and that were attached separately, and we'll do it with super glue so there's hardly any marks showing. Right, so that's the actual engine block, the main assembly. Now as you can see here, I haven't attached the hoses and bits and pieces yet, but when you look at the reference pictures of the engine itself, It's like a gloss black. We're going to do it flat black or a semi-gloss black for the scale effect. And then what we're going to do, which is going to be the complicated bit, is go around. I'm going to pick out all the bits of silver everywhere, because obviously all the nuts and bolts are silver versus the black body. So we've just got some flat black loaded up in the airbrush here. So all we're going to do is give this a light dusting all over. Okay, so we built the engine compartment, as you can see here, the engine block I should say. If we bring you in nice and close. As you can see, it goes together very well. What I've done, sprayed this semi-gloss black, because the engine blocks were tend to be done in the day like that. And as you can see, I picked out all the bolts and the bits and pieces in silver. Now, basically, I've just used I've used like a gun bolt or, gunmetal type silver, so it's not too in your face and bright, but it just brings it to life and it gives it that little bit of depth, as you can see like that. So we can leave that to one side now for the moment. And what we're going to do, we're going to spray up the bulkhead that's going to go on, and the actual engine mounts with a little bit of interior green. So we just get the old compressor online, that you might have to give it a bit of a go around with some soapy liquid first, because they do tend to be a little bit on the oily side when you first spray them, especially if you're using something like a Model Air. So what you tend to do, or I tend to do, if you just dust it very lightly on first, leave it to dry off to one side, and then come back to you with your other bits. And all we're going to do is spray these parts interior green. Now, sometimes you look at your references and they look like they're the yellow chromate type colour. Other times you look at them, they're like an interior basic green and things like that. So really, it's a case of check your references, and if you can find a photo of the original aircraft, have a look at it and check it like that. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the final parts onto the engine block here. As you can see at the top here, we've got the igniters going into the ignitions, a few little extra pieces put on here, as we can see, and it makes a nice engine. Now this is where you can go, you could go ahead and weather it now, and with dry brushing and all the rest of it. I'm going to do this one quite a clean build. It's going to be nicely finished in a chrome finish and everything else, so I don't want it to be too dirty. I want to make it look authentic and not kit-like, but certainly I don't want to go overboard with weathering things like the engine. As you can see here, we've got the engine mount, that's all done, interior green as you're saying, and then obviously we've got these parts at the back here, all goes together very, very well. The only thing I did do is these hoses coming out of here at the back, I've replaced them with a little bit of lead wire. Now if you haven't used lead wire before, the beauty with this stuff is that literally, because it is lead, as we're saying, it's very, very flexible, and you can just bend it and it holds its shape, and it doesn't, sometimes using wire you have to bend it and it's not quite the right shape. This you can literally, like I did on here, super glues one end in, and then you can feed it and run it and just bend it and mould it how you want it to go. So it's quite nice having lead wire. You can get that in various sizes from any of your usual sort of model retailers. So that's it. And then back here we've got the actual cage that's going to sit over the top of the engine, which obviously the cowling then all will actually stick to. So that's that. So that's those bits all done. And then if we just have a quick test fit here. And there we go, that's how the engine actually sits in there, just like that. And then obviously we've got the cage system that will fit over the top of it, which will then actually finish off our little engine area like that. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to give this a quick wash with some of the black wash just around here, let it dry, rub it all off, and a little bit of dry brushing, just because this area gets quite a little bit of wear and tear and things like that. So we're just going to crack on with that now, and we can get on with the cockpit. Okay, so next up we're going to take care of the actual cockpit area. Now I've already primed this because we're using the Valero, so obviously it's quite thin stuff. So what I've actually done, just did some primer, and I've sprayed interior green of the Valero colours, which is number 10 of the Model Air, just on the insides, as you can see here. So we'll just finish off this one here, and then we can get the instruments all in and get it all together. Okay, so when we're doing some weathering, often we use the Pro Modelers weathering wash. Obviously it's my product, so obviously I use it. What I've done here, I've got some in the airbrush, standard 2mm needle. Make sure you give it a bit of a mix around when it's in the colour cup. Okay, now this is just the black, Pro Modelers black. Have the compressor on. Then all we're going to do is blow in a coat over the entire thing. Now what we're hoping is that we'll build a nice little layer up, so it fills in and it clings to the recesses, if you like, and the higher parts. So I've actually done it on this one already, as you can see. I don't know how well you can see. If I bring you in just a touch, so let me just bring you in here, and you can look around, and we've got this effect going on down here, which is quite a nice one, and obviously around the back here, around this sort of ribbing area like that. So it's a quick and easy and fast way to weather. And then if I show you this, that's the difference between the two, obviously with the weathering and with the knot. So there you go, that's both them weathered, and then literally you can have it like that, and as you can see it's clinging somewhat to all those nice panels and recesses, and hopefully it will dry naturally and down. You can give it a bit of a run with a hairdryer. Just like that, just to start drying it off, and it'll give you a sort of better look to what you're going to get. But it's a quick and easy way to weather, and it does come out your airbrush as long as you're using the newer type. We had some trouble with an old one where it's separating. This is the newer one, which doesn't separate, but obviously you can use the dark, you can use the light, and all the rest of it. Okay, so we've moved on a little bit. What we've actually done, we've got the cage now going over the top of the engine itself. Now obviously you need to get in here. If I bring you in a little bit, you need to get in here, get the frame, and obviously line it up with the front. And I used a little bit of super glue here, then obviously it lines in there and then at the back. Now I did have to trim it to fit on one of these sides because it's a little bit too long. Obviously got a little bit of kicker mark down there that we'll have to polish out in a moment. But that's basically the engine all done. Looks very nice. Hopefully we'll have it all exposed and looking the part. Now in the meantime, obviously I've painted the cockpit area. We've got the battery pack on the top there. I'm painting those black. Same with the seat. Then at the same time we've got the photo etch part here, which I've just used a little bit of XF14, which is sort of Japanese Army grey, because by the time we weather it, it'll be quite a sort of different colour. It should come back to that sort of leathery dirt colour. The cockpit area itself, with the panel as well, put this all together. The heads-up display for the gun sight, very straightforward to go together. Then obviously at the moment it's not fixed, it's just sat on top. Then in here we've got decals, which we have here, which are going to go on to make the numbers. Very long-winded way of doing it, because actually it's a photo etch part that goes on. So you could just get away with dry brushing it and doing it like that, but I think it will help just to have a few little instruments in there, because it is a large scale, but it is a very weak point. You know, I can't see the point of actually putting a photo etch part in there. You might as well just moulded it and saved it. So really it's a bit of a novelty thing. The cockpit for a 132 is extremely basic. Now I know there are some resin replacements out there. I'm not sure if it will fit with the Dragon one, but it might be worth having a look at to see what it goes like. Same thing with the outsides, obviously, as we've just spoken about. I've weathered it with some Pro Modelers wash, just sprayed it on there and done it like that. And then what I've done, I've just dry brushed around just to bring these rivets to life with a little bit of silver, with a little bit of gunmetal silver. Just lightly dry brushed it to weather it up. Then obviously we'll do the same with the rest of the cockpit when it's all... Okay, so we've got on some other bits now. As you can see, we've got the cockpit installed. And how well, if we just zoom you in a little bit, so if we just bring you in, as you can see, we've got the cockpit is in and the dials are on. Now they're those little photo etch ones which we put on there. We've gone with a brown wood floor, and then I think if you pick it up too well, but there's little streaks in there to give sort of grain effect. Okay, moving around to the front there, we've got the seat harnesses put on. Then all I did was scrape away the paint, revealing the metal underneath to the actual harnesses and the little buckles. Pretty straightforward going in there. Then the entire thing was given a brush over with the Pro Modelers dark wash, just to give it some dirtiness and bring it to life. Same basically with the cockpits, as you can see there, the side walls as that one and on this one. So now we can basically bring it all together. I've also painted down the back here the little inputs, which are the strengthening things for the tail gear. As you might see here, you've got the scoop on the back and the photo etch part running forward for the front. Now the instructions say to put it in front of that little bar where it is just here. What you can see here, I put it to the back because it doesn't fit on the inside. You'll notice with a lot of the photo etch parts, they're not the best fit in the world. They do tend to sort of, you know, give little bits of problems of actually getting them in there, but they do go with a little bit of trimming and a little bit of pulling apart. Out of note, the photo etch, the belts, I've cut them down and put them in separate because they really are a pain to fit. Okay, pick a side that you actually want to start on. For instance, we'll go with this, which will be the, we'll use this side with the starboard side of the fuselage because we've got the air scoop on there and the photo etch part for the beginning. Just before we install anything onto it, we're going to pop the halves together just to see how they go. And obviously we've got the worry of that photo etch part down the middle. So all we'll do is roughly line everywhere up, and just to make sure it all fits, obviously down the back here, that this has got enough width and it's not going to cause major problems, and it all goes together okay. Once we're happy with that, we can then open it up again and we'll install the cockpit area just for the moment. So we'll just pop that in, and it lines up with the rear. We've got the ribbing at the back here, so that one pushes up against there, and the front one, but you've got these little location things down there anyway. So they'll go in just like that. So we have the cockpit installed in there, then we'll just pop the other halves on again. And what we're doing, we're just making sure this all goes together, which it does, so we've got no problem. Unfortunately, usual thing, all that lovely cockpit detail, we're going to lose a lot of it, we're not going to be able to see it, but never mind. But that all goes together okay, so we're happy with that. And then last, we'll just pop the engine in as well. Now there's a little hole which that fits in. Okay, so we'll pop that in, so we've got all three parts on there like that, looking very nice. As you can see, I'll take some stills with this as well. So that's all those in like that, and then we'll overlay this on. So we can just bring this around, so we can see all three fitting in, which they do, which brings it really to nice. That engine's looking very nice there. So we all fit and we know that's okay. Now the only last thing we've got to do is pop in the tail wheel. Just pop those out. So we've got the tail wheel assembly just on the back here. I've painted this silver already, although you could do it afterwards. And then obviously this will then just fit in here. And then obviously it would rotate up and in. So there we go. That will be in there, and we'll fix that in there like that. So what we're going to do, I'll get all these parts fixed together and then we can bring the fuselage halves. Okay, so we've got the fuselage all done, and what I've actually done is a little bit of filler work, just taking care of the seams. Actually, it's a very good fit. The only problem one we had was at the front here, and basically a little bit of super glue, a little bit of kicker, sanded and filled, just like that. Same on the top one up here. The only problem there's a slight little sink mark just down in the bottom here, where the pins, the location pins are, so there's a little tiny sink mark there, but that's the only one. So there we go, that's all together, it's all in there. The only thing I haven't done is actually glued, as you can see, it wobbles slightly, the engine mount, because I'm not too sure how it's all going to come together. Obviously it's on the main engine mount to each side, but not to the back fuselage. That way we can position it as needed. Then when we're happy that it's all there, we can then glue in place to fix it. But for the moment it's all like that. But we're all in and we're all happy with that. So that goes to one side. Now the next thing is the tail planes and rudder and things like that. Quite a nice touch because all of these move as well. So basically what you have is you'll have a little bag just like this, and then what you've got is a little curved piece of metal which is absolutely minute. If we bring you in a bit there you go, you can see it just there like that. Okay, and then what it is down in here, if I bring you in nice and close for this, you can see. Okay, as you can see there, you've got a little track running in there. Now if you take a little bit of glue, this CA glue, and just put a drop in there like that, and then you can just pop your piece of metal in, and that'll hold. Now what this actually does is enable the actual tail, the surfaces, to actually move up and down. So that just sits on there like that when you're happy. And then what I'll do is I'll just use a little bit of super glue just for speed here. I'll just whip it round the outside. Okay, just like that. And then once you're on there and you're happy with how it's all sitting, then all you do is basically just bring these two halves together. Now there's lots of locating pins on there, which comes in quite handy, although they are a little bit big, I find. You might want to trim them off, but for the moment you just pop it in like that. We'll give that all a bit of a squeeze just to bring that together. Then what you have here is your other part, which is then obviously going to click to the underside. Okay, and then you've got this little tab here, which then is going to go on the top and hold it in position. So we're just get all that nicely seated, just like that. As I say, then this one comes up from the bottom, just like that. And I'll use a little bit of liquid cement just down in the hole, just to move that around. And then this one, just simply, he says, once you've just cleaned up the part, make sure it's a nice clean, get your little tab off the end, because it is quite a tight fit. So there we go, let's do that again. So it's up inside just like that, and then it sits on the top. Okay, give it a push and it will click, and once you've clicked, you're in. Now you're best to leave that off to one side to dry. So we'll pop that out of the way in true Blue Peter fashion. Here's one I did earlier, and as you can see, it fits on and it moves. So it's quite a sort of loose fit, if you like, so you have to be a little bit careful with it. So then obviously it comes along, okay, and then you've got a little hole just down here, and obviously your main area, and then make sure it pokes in, and then once you're in, you can maneuver it. Now because on this one I put the control column forward, obviously then the tail will be down at rest, as it would be just like that. Then on the end here you've just got another one, which is the trim tabs, and they just click on the end, as simple as that. So that's very straightforward. The other thing you've got here is the rudder, very straightforward as well. Two halves. Let me just bring you out a little bit. So obviously we're on here like that. We're just going to fit one half in, so if you sort of angle it in just a little bit, okay, and then you've got the other one will come in as well, and once you're both in, you can pinch over the top and align it. Now before you glue all that totally together, just come along with your trim tab, which is for the rudder, and you can sit that on the inside as well, giving your tail and your rudder set up like that. He says, dropping a bit, but that's how it's going to go, just like that. So we get all those glued and installed. Okay, so we started work on the wing surface. Now obviously we've got the wheel well that goes in. Very simple. You've got two little hydraulic bottles, I think they are, that sit in there, and obviously the centre part, and they just literally all fit in. Now at the top here you can see these nasty little ejector pin marks, which literally just, you can snap off, sand off, cut off, whichever way you want to do it. So we just take them off, because otherwise there's no way that's going to fit. So we just take them off, and then just give a light sand over them to make sure they're down. And then obviously we can check our fit with our major component, the fuselage. So we can just sit it up there and see how it's all going to fit in. Obviously it's going to be a bit of a tight squeeze getting this all in. There we go, but it's going to fit something like that, which gives us the size. So it all goes in, and we're all happy how that's going to lay. So we can put the main fuselage to one side for a second. In here as well, I've put in the clear part, obviously for the lighting that goes underneath the wing there. Now, the next thing that we do, obviously installing the flaps is going to be pretty straightforward. They're just going to click in here, so then they can drop down, and obviously there's a hole that will be on the inside here when the bottom half of the wing goes up, which is going to take care of that. But now the ailerons on the outside is something a little bit different, because actually what you get, you're going to be using the photo etch set, which we have here, and then number I think it's number 6 and 8, tiny little photo etch. Okay, and it's got a little bend mark, so all we're going to do in like that, I'm just going to bend it 90 degrees so it'll sit. And then what happens is you can either fit it like I've done here to the lower half of the wing and put them in first, or you can do it the other way and put the pin in. Really, it doesn't matter which way you do it. I'm going to prefer to put them in like this. So then using a drop of CA super glue, I'm just going to come along, pop that in, more to hold that in position. Quite a generous amount of glue, because we don't want this one to move anywhere. And what I'll do is I'll just put a drop of kicker on the top just to make sure that sets nicely in. And then what we're going to be doing then is, obviously you've got a hole that runs in the end here. Now that's going to then go through, and we're going to have a pin. So okay, this is very tough stuff to try and cut, so a little way of doing it, if you're trying to cut it, it's a nightmare. So if you put it in between your tweezers like this, you can see it just like that. Okay, 90 degrees down, and then pull it 90 degrees up, and it should come off, and then you're left with the little pin as we need, just like that. If you're trying to do it with pliers and cutting it, sometimes they tend to bend slightly, and then you get all types of problems. So okay, put that to one side. I'm just checking our reference to make sure we're all okay and we're all right. And then what we're going to do, because these are going to be the sort of the moving part, if you like, we're just going to place this one up. And then obviously what we need to do, as it fails to tell you in the instructions, another thing, you're going to have to cut out the little part that's in there. So if you just use your knife and go down just like that to trim that out a sec, and then what we'll do is just open up the hole. These are all parts, because technically it's obviously used for the other kit with the normal parts. So what we'll do, there we go. Then okay, this one is then going to fit over here like that, like so, and then that 3mm pin will then just push down in, like so. And we'll then hopefully hold it there. Now for the moment obviously it'll pop back out if I let go, but that's how it actually works. And then we'll put a drop of glue, CA glue, up in the end here, wiggle it up and down so it doesn't freeze and lock in position, and that should be good enough.